All right. Give it a second. Hey, baby. Que paso? Live and in the flesh. It's Slick Diaz from MMA Island, bringing you another episode of MMA Attic, the newly renovated, refurbished situation we got going on with my two compadres, Michael Frye and Zach Harkness. We're bringing you a little amalgamation of shows that we're putting together in MMA Attic called MMA Math Thematics, where we do a few little mini segments that kind of, fit our specialties and niches. And then we just, it's a short and sweet podcast every week that will be part of the MMA Attic show. So say what's up, boys. How we doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, Michael? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Just hanging out, having a good night. Got the UFC background going.
Oh, I didn't even notice, bro. That looks great. We would have been. I was talking so fast. I don't have to rush. I feel like I'm in a rush because old Zach was watching the heckin' Steelers game instead of recording.
Hey, when we play on a Wednesday, I have to watch.
What's so important about Wednesday football?
It's the fact that it's my team.
And it's never really been a thing.
And it's a rivalry game.
But okay, so you're a Steelers fan. We'll get into the MMA real quick, but I'm curious. You're a Steelers fan, but you're a West Coast baby.
Yes.
Why?
My dad's a Steelers fan. He grew up in Pittsburgh, and I also live there.
All right, that's fair.
I'm in Canada, and I'm a diehard Indianapolis Colts fan.
That makes sense because what are you gonna like? You gonna watch European like EFL or whatever the fuck it's called, like the Cologne Knights or whatever.
No, I'm good. I'm good upon that CFL. I love my Colts, so there we go.
So for MMA Mathematics, this new show involving all of your favorite or some of your favorite MMA Island boys, we've got a segment called Scrapbooking with Slick Diaz, where we will take fights that happened in the previous weekend, like on the Anthony Smith versus Devin Clark card we saw this weekend, and we'll do a little bit of matchmaking as a team to figure out what we'd like to see next for a few key people. Then we'll move into a preview of next week's card, and we'll get into Michael Frye's segment called The Day-to-Day, where we talk about his ingenious development, the MMA calculator. And then to wrap it up, to top it off, we've got some homework assignments each week from the Game Bred Spy himself, Mal Pacino. What's it called? What do we call it? The Tape Deck?
The Tape Deck.
Ooh! I mean, those sound like some pretty good segments. So y'all ready to get into it? Let's preview, or let's give a rundown of last week's card really quick. Who would you say? We're gonna give out bonuses, guys. This was Zach's idea. I wanted a way to preview the week's previous card to get into scrapbooking without just jumping right into it. So we want to give out specialized performance bonuses. I don't have specific things yet. So for the first week, we're going to do each of our own impact performer. Just pick who had the biggest, best performance for you on the card, and we'll talk about why. And then we can talk maybe about what's next for those guys if it lines up like that.
Well, here I can run through the card just quickly and just give the winner and the loser and the outcome.
Sounds beautiful. Perfect.
Okay, I'll fly through it. We got first fight, Nate Maynez choking out Luke Sanders in the second round. Was kind of getting pieced up on the feet in the first round. Comes back and chokes him out in the second. Su Mudaerji goes on and knocks out Malcolm Gordon in the first round, first minute. Then you got Gina Mazzani knocking out, TKO body kick in the third round against Rachel Ostovich. Anderson Dos Santos with the guillotine submission of Martin Day. Jonathan Pierce TKO from back mount on Kai Kamaka. Norma Dumont versus Ashley Evans Smith. Norma Dumont just the entire 3 rounds. Then you got Bill Algeo just dominating against Spike Carlisle. In my eyes, at least. I know a lot of people thought it was a little bit back and forth. Spike Carlisle even thought he won the fight, but
I wouldn't say dominate, but it was a close, good fight that Bill clearly won. I wouldn't say close. I missed.
Yeah, I know. Maybe not.
I wouldn't say blew him out of the water. But
he was never in fear of being finished. So I mean, I guess you could say not dominated. And then Parker Porter versus Josh Parisian. It was a fight where. That I actually bet it to end via KO. That was my top bet on the UFC calculator. And They happen to absorb the second most strikes in UFC heavyweight history in a UFC heavyweight fight, and finished. So
one of my favorite plays, period, no matter who. Well, I guess it does matter who it is, but one of my favorite plays that I make is just being like, fuck it, this heavyweight fight's going the distance. Even whenever, because everyone always thinks that it's going to end, and I'm like, nah. So I called Parisian by decision, but good looks to Parker Porter. Sorry, I get confused when alliteration comes into play. But yeah, that was a good scrap. I like it.
It was. All bets aside, it was a pretty good fight, and I was just me at the edge of my seat, being like, I'm waiting for Parisian to drop, even though I had Parisian winning even. And then Miguel Baeza taking on Takashi Sato, two very talented strikers. Miguel Baeza being the black belt on the ground, he goes out and arm triangle chokes Takashi Sato.
He's a caramel belt, okay?
And then you go on. You got Anthony Smith, Devin Clark in the main event of the evening. Devin Clark shoots in for the takedown. Anthony Smith pulls off some great transitions, gets the triangle choke in the first round at 2 minutes and 34 seconds to kind of come back in a way, because he's been on 2 losses in a row now, and then faces Devin Clark in a pretty significant drop in competition. No shot to Devin Clark, and he gets the win. So Anthony Smith, he ain't done yet.
All right, and this is a cautionary tale for all the renegade MMA pickers like me who just let it fly on fight night when you're making your picks. Trust your gut, okay? Let me tell you, there was 2 fights that this happened this weekend, but it was the Anthony Smith one was the hardest hitting one, because when I first pictured this fight, I was like, okay, Devin Clark's going to want to wrestle him immediately. But Anthony Smith's going to know that. His veteran shit's going to kick into play. He's going to do some clever shit and get him out of there quick in the first round, because he's got the answer because he knows he's going to come wrestle. But then I tricked myself into thinking, oh no, they're going to brawl it out, and Anthony Smith's going to get a late knockout. So it's just really important to trust your gut in MMA. To me, because I feel worse having not trusted my gut and then being wrong than like going for it and being wrong. You know, like I'd rather go with it and like suffer the fall than never have leaped in the first place. So that's what I'll say about that. What do you think about the card, Zach? Who was your impact performer of the night, would you say?
Impact performer of the night has to be Caramel Thunder, Miguel Baeza. This fight, when I saw booked, I knew it was going to be great because you have 2 impact strikers who always put on a show. And I've said a lot of the time, Takashi Sato is a mystery to me because I don't know how good he is, because he's lost to some of the best and beaten some of the worst. So is he somewhere in the middle? I guess this fight answered my question about him. He's really good, but Miguel Baeza is better. This guy,
good, man. I like Sato, but Baeza,
I like Sato too, and I think he's a very, very good caliber of an opponent. And Baeza looked incredible in that fight. His power, his precision, everything was on point. This guy is now, I think he's now 10-0, and with a bunch of finishes, finishing a tough opponent like that in Sato. This guy is on a fast track. He's now skyrocketing towards the top 15. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's one more fight away or even gets a fight in the top 15 next. I would not be surprised to see it.
So, I mean, you put a pin in that, because I want to hear who had the biggest, impact for Michael. And then I want to talk about right off the bat for scrapbooking. My first one was Miguel Baeza, and I've got a few options that I want to hear your thoughts on. But Michael, who was your man? I want to come up with something other than. I feel like I'm stealing impact performer, but like from something else, like a Madden game or something.
The spotlight for me. There you go.
Yeah, the Michael Frye spotlight.
The Michael Frye spotlight. Honestly, a lot of people it could go to. I think the front runners. What is that? The runner ups is what I will say. Is I was impressed with Baeza for sure. Parker Porter impressed me. Pretty much every single winner kind of impressed me tonight. Obviously, that's kind of obvious to say, but I think they all had pretty decent wins. Like we had three decisions on the night, and then you look at Algeo, Porter, and Dumont. The 3 decisions, they all look really good. So I mean, I think I'm going to lean towards actually the first fight of the night, Nate Maness. Luke Sanders is a beast.
Okay.
And Nate Maness has looked very good in his first 2 fights. So I like that dude. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on that guy, and hey, maybe I'll interview him sometime soon. But that dude looks really, really good. I saw him. He was hurting Luke Sanders in the first few punches that he landed, and for the most part, Luke Sanders probably won the first round just because he was the one pushing forward, landing more shots. But every single time Nate Maness landed a shot, you could tell it hurt Luke Sanders.
Chin.
There you go. Nate Maness in the second round drops him and then pulls out the rear naked choke and gets the rear naked choke finish.
Nice. Well, for me, I mean that's a good pick. I always think the first fight of the night gets slept on in theory when leading up to a fight, or when leading up to a card, and then even after the fight, even if it was fireworks, people still just glaze over it. So I appreciate that, Michael Frye. But for me, it was the second fight of the night. Sumaderji just taking Malcolm Gordon out to the cleaners. Maybe it's just because I picked it that way. So I'm really, I was just happy with it. But Sumaderji, there's sometimes where you just see someone striking and you're like, I love this guy. Like, it doesn't even matter that he's fun on fun on camera. Like, even though he doesn't, speak English or anything. Not that I know of. I don't
interview with him though. We got translated interview coming soon, hopefully.
Yep, that's fingers crossed because I'm super excited to hear more from him. But Sumaderji is someone who I've had my eye on, so it was really exciting to see him pull that off. But as far as scrapbooking, y'all don't mind if we get into some matchmaking before y'all's segments, do you?
No, go ahead. Let's do it.
So for Miguel Baeza, I was like, ooh, top 20, top 15. But then I looked at the world rankings. RankingsMMA.com is what I use. It isn't official. They don't take the UFC's top 15 and just copy paste it. There's a little difference sometimes, and it's world rankings. So it just gives me a frame of reference to see where these people are in relation outside of the top 15, because on the UFC's website, you can only see so much. So yeah. For Miguel Baeza, he's sitting at 32 after that fight, which isn't that's welterweight, right? I mean, that's a pretty stacked division.
It's probably the best. It's probably the best division outside the top 15.
Yeah, well, it's really deep. There's a lot of really deep divisions, but welterweight's definitely up there, just because the size range of people that can compete at that weight. But for him, I want to take it I don't want to just shoot him up there immediately, man. I want to get him against quality competition, but make it at like a steady pace, like to where when Miguel Baeza gets his shot, it makes sense, and people are gonna know that that's the guy. I want a gradual rise for Miguel Baeza, and I think two guys that could do that it's a scrap with Daniel Rodriguez or I always mess this guy's name up. Zaleski dos Santos. I think that would be a really fun fight too, because Rodriguez is ranked 29, Dos Santos is ranked 25. And I just think both of those fights are winnable fights, but I think Daniel Rodriguez is also a dangerous fight for him. So, that those are two that make sense to me. But do y'all have any ideas for Miguel Baeza?
I mean, I got fight.
Go ahead.
Here, it's crazy because I don't typically play this game. Like, we're going
to be playing this game weekly, Michael.
I'm so excited because I don't typically ever really sit down and say, okay, who could this guy fight next? And it's kind of fun because I'm looking through the rankings and because I run Headline Island and I post fight announcements. So it kind of hits me like a train when a fight is announced. It's like, whoa, it's like weird. It's weird, like thinking about those two guys, like, wow, they're actually matched up to fight each other. So playing that game, it's fun for me, new experience. And this goes against what I typically like to do. When I looked at, Modesto Spakowskis versus Jimmy Croot, when that fight got matched up, I was like, dang, you're kind of killing a contender there, because those are two guys who are on fire. Obviously, Spakowskis was only one fight into his UFC career, but I thought that dude had a lot of potential, and making him go 1-1 in his UFC career kind of doesn't really sit well with me, because you're not really gonna you can't really talk about him as
that's not a good platform to start it off.
Exactly, but I'm going against it. Going against everything I've ever said just because I know that this is a scrap and I have no idea what way it'll go. Miguel Baeza versus Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Love it.
Love
Love it. I was
That
looking at it and I was like,
banger.
ah.
I think that's a banger because you got multiple reasons here. Shavkat Rakhmonov can strike very, very well. Miguel Baeza can strike very, very well. Hey, you don't even know he's a black belt on the ground. At least most people didn't. No submissions on his record. Dude goes to the ground and chokes out a very good welterweight in Takashi Sato. And Shavkat Rakhmonov goes out and chokes out another very good welterweight in Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Two guys who are very underrated on the ground and are mostly known for their striking, in my eyes at least. So two guys who are undefeated. I just think that you can't predict that fight. Like I know that we are the fight predictors for the most part, but I wouldn't even know where to start with it, just because we haven't. One thing I like to point to when it comes to where you pick if a fighter is going to win is you look at their weakness and is the other person good at that weakness. But these are two very, very well balanced fighters, and I think the fight that I always point to when it comes to well balanced is Usman versus Covington, because I just think that's the picture perfect well balanced fight, and we saw how well that fight ended. Totally, just so. I think that's a great matchup to make, and it's kind of ballsy because you got two undefeated fighters early in their UFC career. So, but I like it. I like it a lot.
I like it too. What about you, Mr. Harkness?
I like a fight with someone who, if he beats, he's going to get that top 15 matchup, and that's the rude boy, Randy Brown. Randy Brown is coming off a loss to Vicente Luque, and we know that he always puts on insanely fun fights with high-level talent.
That's a crazy fight.
And that's what Baeza does well as well. That fight will be insane everywhere it goes. On the feet, the rangy striking exchanges, and if it gets inside and on the ground, they're both equally on the same level. I think it's an insanely well-matched fight. We know where they're both pretty much at the same place in the division, right below that top 15. And if that happens, that's fight of the night fireworks. I need to see it.
Yeah. So those are a lot of options for Caramel Thunder. Miguel Baeza, who gave an electric performance this last weekend. We were all big fans going into it. We're still big fans, even more so now. So next, I got Suma Derji, but I went and looked at are y'all both internet compatible right now?
Yeah,
I can Google stuff.
Yeah.
Can you bring up Rankings MMA on that division real quick?
On the flyweight division?
Yep.
I use the Tapology World Rankings, which are pretty much the same thing.
It's so booked up, bro. Tapology has world rankings deeper than 15.
Yeah, they go to like 200, 250, 300.
Well, I'm going to switch to that then.
Yeah, it's Suma Derji's ranked 30 in Tapology.
Yeah, well, does it tell you if a fighter has a fight booked on the same screen?
Yes.
Beautiful, champ. Well, Tapology's always been dope. I should have known that. So for him, I wanted to just open it up and not even give an answer because the division's really booked up in his realm right now of where he's ranked. A lot of dudes are booked to fight soon. So if y'all got any idea on what would be good for Suma Derji next, you're his manager, what fight would you be going for?
So he needs an unranked fighter again. I think he's one fight away. Or maybe if he gets someone ranked, it has to be in the 15 or lower range.
Bro,
but I
15,
think no.
Oh.
Okay, so I think you can test him against some of the lower ranked guys. So I think you give him Jordan Espinoza because in my eyes, Jordan Espinoza is the flyweight top 15 gatekeeper. If you are able to beat Jordan Espinoza, you belong in the flyweight top 15. And that's the questions we need answered about Suma Derji right now. He looks really promising.
We need questions answered.
He looks really promising in that performance against Malcolm Gordon. And no disrespect to Malcolm Gordon, but you need to show those skills against the higher level of competition if you are to show that you have the potential that everyone is seeing in him. Because he has the talent, he has the skills, but do they translate? And so I think the perfect gatekeeper is Espinoza because Espinoza will test him with wrestling, which we haven't really seen him face a really high-level wrestler before to see if his striking is enough to offset a decent ground game. So I think that is something that we want to see. Sumudaerji, if he beats Jordan Espinoza, then we know we have something on our hands. We have a prospect who deserves to be in the top 15 and can continue to make a run to the title.
That's interesting. I think that while I'll agree, I do think that we should put more investigation into who's the gatekeeper for each division. That sounds really fun as well for the future. That's something that might be interesting.
Well, there's different gatekeepers. There's different levels.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because I was thinking Jordan Espinoza, definitely a gatekeeper for the division. I don't know if he's the cowboy gatekeeper.
It used to be Formiga. Formiga was the gatekeeper to the top. Espinoza's the gatekeeper to the top 15.
Crazy. And what do you have a fight in mind for Mr. Sumudaerji, Mikey Frye?
And I do. It sucks because I guess you picked Jordan Espinoza, so we're good to pick fighters that are booked, or
Espinoza's booked.
I'd like
he's booked against Tim Elliott.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I have to change my pick.
I was Ryan Benoit is below him in a similar range, but Ryan Benoit is 1 and 2 in his last.
You know what? Let's go with Raulian Paiva. Let's do that. Same level.
Ooh, honestly, I take Sumudaerji there.
I would take him too. Paiva got lucky in a decision against someone who's unranked in Zhumagulov.
Paiva always impresses me. He always looks better than I expect him to, though.
In the Zhumagulov fight, he looked bad. He only won because he tired out.
Maybe not that fight, but I distinctly remember being like, damn, I always just think this guy's not and then he always I feel like he's impressed me multiple times.
Yeah, against Kai Kara-France, he looked really good, and then his eyebrow fell off against Bontorin.
Shout out Nate Diaz.
Yeah, right.
Hey, chill up. So you've changed your pick to Raulian Paiva, Zach?
Yes, I do.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I changed.
Mikey?
Oh man, yeah, it's tough because if you're talking about picking a fight, picking a fighter that's already booked, I would love to see Zhalga Zhumagulov versus him, because typically Zhalga Zhumagulov is typically a striker, so I would like to see two strikers go at it, but. And this is the thing that kind of holds me back a little bit because, again, I picked the last one that's being picking two guys that you're kind of killing a contender whoever wins. But man, I'm a sucker for these firework fights, and I would like to see Tagir Ulanbekov take on Sumudaerji.
I think Tagir eats him for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's not do that yet.
I think he might be a little too high ranked. No.
Well, Tagir's not that. Yeah, Tagir's not ranked, but I believe Tagir is future top contender material. He's really good.
Yeah, he's got an amazing record. He looked great his last fight. But I don't know, man. I like it. I like that fight just because you're looking at Ulanbekov, a guy who I think if he goes out there and he beats Sumudaerji, I think you can boost him in the top 15. And you give him a pretty high-ranked opponent that you shouldn't give him right now. And then again, because obviously Tagir Ulanbekov would be a huge favorite has that fight, if that fight were to happen, just because of the submission game, and that's typically how Sumudaerji loses his fights. And then you get Sumudaerji, a guy who, if he goes out there and he beats Tagir Ulanbekov, who again he looked good. Ulanbekov looked good in his fight against Bruno Silva, but at the same time, Bruno Silva was always in it. And you're kind of having a huge jump in striking caliber when you go from Bruno Silva to Sumudaerji. So I think it's a fight where both fighters have a shot. Again, kind of killing a guy with a little bit of hype behind him. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And I'll if we're doing another fight matchmaking prediction, I'll hold back from that one. But I'm killing a contender again, and I'm going to go Sumudaerji, Ulanbekov.
I like both of those. Good work, boys. So for the last one, I've got, to touch on the fact that we're not booking against booked fighters because we want to make it like we're scrapbooking. We're making matches, right? So yes. I would have loved to see Bill Algeo versus Billy Quarantillo next. It would have been great. But Billy Quarantillo's booked against Gavin Tucker. So I've got 3 names, and I want y'all to answer A, B, or C and tell me why. Okay? For Bill Algeo.
All right.
So, A, Ludovic Klein. B, Alex Caceres. C, Julian Erosa.
Dang. The first thing that pops into my mind there, your options were tell me your options again.
Ludovic Klein, he's knocked out Shane Young.
Yep.
Recently. Alex Caceres, who's on a streak right now.
Erosa.
And Julian Erosa, who had the nice comeback victory recently.
Can I write in an answer?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna go
D,
for
I'll
D
give you
other.
3, and then if you want to write in,
I want to see, because this fight isn't exactly killing a prospect, even though these two guys I think are promising, and it would be an incredible fight. I don't think he's gonna get Giga Chikadze, which is who he called for. I don't think that fight's gonna happen.
So instead, I like that fight. Though.
He called him out in the post-fight interview. I want to see Bill Algeo versus Air Jordan Charles Jourdain. That striking match will be incredible. If that goes to the ground, that'll be nice. That's a great fight.
Stank face. Stank face. All right, what you think, Michael? You can also write one in, or you can choose one of the ones that Slick has curated for you.
Jeez. I think I'll write one in. And I think I'll go with Herbert Burns.
That's a fun fight. Man, I kind of forgot about Herbert. He fell off because everyone was so hype on him. Gilbert was getting so much hype. And then
Herbert had two huge wins. He had that giant knee knockout, and then the beautiful submission of Evan Dunham. He had deserved hype.
But his hype didn't start happening on social media really. Like the highlights is one thing. I'm talking about fanfare.
Oh, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the fanfare.
Well, Pineda, you're not a fan. You're an addict. So.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
You got Daniel Pineda now taking on Cub Swanson next.
That's a great fight. 256.
I love that fight. I absolutely love
Daniel Pineda is so hard-nosed. That's going to make it interesting.
I wonder if he's still on the juice.
Never had a decision win. Never.
He's never had a decision.
Is he only been finished as well? Wow.
Yep.
And he's what? Like he has a pretty good record. Was he 30 and I could be way off.
I think he has like 7 losses here. Let me pull that up actually.
33 and 16, but I feel like that's way too much. Pulling it up, 27-13. But no, went to decision and lost. He lost 5 times via decision.
Okay, I thought he never went to decision in general.
No, there's someone who I also made that mistake for, Zach. I know what you're talking about, but who is it? Yeah, not gonna waste time on camera just going, oh, who is it, dude? Oh.
Can I throw in one that I wanted to talk about? It's actually from this card as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Anthony Smith, Paul Craig. Obviously
beautiful. I didn't even match make for Anthony Smith because I like it so much.
Yeah,
for Anthony Smith, I think that Paul Craig is a little bit too low for him right now. I don't think Paul Craig deserves Anthony Smith right now, even though yes, he did beat an unranked fighter. But if you want fireworks, you bring in the firecracker himself, Johnny Walker. Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker is the one that I want to see because you cannot tell me that that's going to be incredible.
Good fight. You know what would make for if you put Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker? Think of not only the fight but the stare down. That would be.
Oh, that would be great. I think it ends with Paul Craig sleeping on the canvas, but
me too. No, I didn't say that. I don't believe that. Fuck,
you just said me too. That's a Freudian slip. It's your subconscious.
I feel like that's a pretty good Paul Craig impression coming from Slick eventually someday, but you never know.
Yeah, well, eventually, once I finally watched that Scottish Disney movie or whatever, Pixar or something.
Brave.
Yeah. All I know is that one quote: "If you had the chance to change your fate, would you?" That's all I got. So, yeah, we've made a lot of fights in the past 10, 15 minutes. So next, we're going to get a little preview of next week's card before we dive into the day-to-day with Michael Frye, where this segment where he'll tell us a little bit about the calculator's workings for the week, but not this week because he didn't do his work.
Hey, I have the result calculator, not the outcomes yet, though.
Oh, okay.
I
misunderstood. But so yeah, he'll just give us a quick breakdown of how that's going to work each week. This week he'll tell us about it, and then we will send it to the professor himself, Zach Harkness, to assign us some homework until the fights. So this next weekend, UFC Vegas 16, seemingly a great card. I'm super excited for it. I will say that I'm probably excited for Roman Dolidze to fight. I don't care who he fights. I just want to see it.
Yes. One of my favorite underrated hype trains.
Yeah. Well,
we haven't even seen his grappling yet, and he's an ADCC Asia winner.
Yeah, it's about to start. I think I don't know if we see grappling this week, but I think the hype train's about to take off. I really do.
Well, it's a good thing I had my first class tickets when they were cheap. I bought them before the fight happened, actually. Before
Speaking
he knocked
of,
out Khadis Ibrahimov.
In a matter of half an hour, Zach?
I can just put it on my phone. We can keep talking.
Sorry, I was just making sure because I'm just trying to keep a meter on things. But so yeah, I'm super stoked for Roman Dolidze. We got a bunch of cool scraps on the undercard. Like Jimmy Flick, Cody Durden should be cool. Ooh. The Contender Series guy making his debut. We've got another Contender Series guy right after that, Jordan Levitt. Then we've got Smolka Quinones, Movsar Evloev versus Nate Landwehr.
My favorite squash match out there.
To start the card, is John Vellante versus Jake Collier the first fight of the card?
Yes, I think so.
And then we got Damon Jackson versus Ilya Tapouria.
Another squash match.
The Georgian, who holds many flags, but he is a Georgian through and through. I made the mistake on socials associating him as a Spaniard, perhaps. And while he may hold that flag, the man is Georgian. So let's. I think he was born in Germany, grew up in he grew up in Georgia, and then now trains in Spain, I guess, or something.
He's very multinational, Mr. Tapouria.
Yeah, the international man of mystery. I'm super excited for him to fight too. And then we've got Gabriel Benitez, Justin James, Talia Santos, Montana De La Rosa, St. Preux versus Hill. It's going to be crazy. Ooh. And then Hermanson, Vittori, the Stallion versus the Joker. I don't care that he's called the Italian Dream. The man's name is the Stallion in my book. What's y'all's excitement level, 1 to 10?
My excitement level would be a 10, but that's saved for, I guess I can call this a 10, and then December 19th, which is happening soon, and 256, which is the week after this, I guess I can say is a 12 to 15, because those are some of the best cards we've ever seen. At least I've ever seen. Like, God, those are stacked up.
Full last 10 for you, Zach?
I think so. There's just a lot of stuff that I really want to see on this card. There's a lot of prospects that I'm interested in. Like, I'm really interested in Jimmy Flick, Ilya Tapouria, Jamal Hill for sure, and Movsar Evloev definitely. These guys are all people who I hold in very, very high regard, and I can't wait to see them fight.
Oh yeah.
There's not a bad fight on this card except for the first one, but it's not really bad because at least they're recognizable names. It's not gonna be great in execution.
This is a John Vellante Stan account, okay?
Then I'm gonna block you.
All right. So, do you have any thoughts on this card, Michael? Before we get it, yeah. Well, I mean, do you want to just get into your segment with this card in mind? Do you want to tell us what are your thoughts on this upcoming card and what the calculator would do in theory?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing
about it. Yeah.
The first thing, the excitement level for me. I mean, I'm pretty excited for this. I typically there's always a category of cards, and I think the category that this one falls into is a great amount of good fights, and that is something I still hold like pretty. I'm happy to watch these fights. I would say this card is a banger of a card, but I would say that this is a great amount of good fights. So all these, and I said this in the fight picks videos, that a lot of these fighters are fighters that I am excited to see again. There are like so many of them. Like I'm excited to see Ilya Tapouria. I'm excited to see Cody Durden again. I'm excited to see Movsar Evloev.
I'm not excited to see Cody Durden.
Taylor Santos, who's one of my favorite female fighters.
Oh, Taylor. I'm sorry. I said Talia earlier.
I think it's Tyler.
Tyler.
Wow.
Is it? And Marvin Vittori, of course. A lot of these guys and a lot of these girls that I'm picking to win are not ones that I'm like. A lot of the ones that I'm saying I'm excited to see are not ones I'm picking to win. That's why there's a lot of good fights. There's a great amount of good fights. So really excited for this card. Passing it on to my calculator. The calculator and I typically don't agree. I will say, which will surprise a lot.
Although you always side with it, though. That's why you picked Simmons over Chikadze.
100%, because I trust it more than me, because I pick with my heart way too often, and it's been known to bite me in the back a little bit throughout my UFC predicting career. So I go with the calculator. I trust the calculator so much. I put my life's work into this calculator. It's just all I think about. It's all I do, and it's all I work on.
Would you say that this is your day to day?
100%. There you go. So yeah, there's a couple things to watch for. Not to just get into the calculator's predictions just yet, but a couple fights that I think would be close. I think personally that Damon Jackson, Ilya Tapouria will be very close. Zach disagrees with me, but the calculator says that is going to be a total beatdown by Ilya Tapouria.
I do agree.
And the reason I think that it's going to be very close is because you got a guy in Mirsad Bektic taking on Damon Jackson. And Mirsad Bektic was dominating him on the ground for the most part of the wrestling department and not so much the submission department. Ilya Tapouria is probably going to want to take Damon Jackson down and try to submit him. So it's really a battle, and I can't think of a fight that's been like this before, but it's two submission specialists going at it. So it'll be tough to see because
Maya Askren.
Yeah, Maya Askren. There you go.
The most beautiful spinning back fist of all time.
So, hey, maybe we see some striking out of it. And Ilya Tapouria, he's got hands as well. So it'll be tough, man. That's one thing that I think there are two fights that are very, very close in the calculator's eyes. And those two fights are Jimmy Flick and Cody Durden. And then Gabriel Benitez versus Justin James. Those two fights are very close, along with, and I don't think – I will announce my personal pick. I think Roman Dolidze is going to knock out John Allen, personally, and I will say it because I went against it in the calculator, and I will always on the fight picks. You will never see me pick against the calculator. I rarely do it, and I typically explain why the calculator sees it that way. But my gut feeling, Roman Dolidze knocks out John Allen, and it says that one's close too. So 3 fights that it says are pretty close are those 3. I feel like someday we'll have to do a video where I explain exactly what goes into the calculator, so it's not just me going, okay, I think this. It's not that. So
Michael has these. He has this set of factors that he has developed over time, and he's constantly cycling new stuff in. He's like a mad scientist, and we're just lucky to have him on the MMA Islands, the MMA Isles, should I say? So do you want to just explain quickly what a factor is, and then maybe tell us a few predictions that the calculator has for the week?
Yeah, so a factor is what builds up the calculator. I track about over 60 factors, I think, at the moment, and I've actually recently started getting into coding. And a shout out if anyone knows anything about coding, please hit me up because I'm a noob and I'm out here trying my best. And hopefully someday we get to a point where I can put thousands of factors in and it can track the top of those factors and just keep looking for those. So basically the way this calculator works is a factor is a trend. And if that trend matches up with a matchup, it gives the one fighter a point, and those points compared to each other bring up a percentage against each other. And this is one mistake I think I made early on in the calculator, and it's kind of changing as we go along and as more fights go by. But I started off by going with really simple factors: striking defense, striking accuracy advantage, number of win advantage, number of losses disadvantage, all those sort of things. But now I'm getting real deep into it, and I'm looking at how often does this fighter start with leg kicks in the first round compared to how many does the other eat? How many times has this person been finished in the third round compared to how many times has the person had finishes in the third round? A lot of things that are really, really specific to make it so they're really accurate. And I just have a bunch of those, man. I can't wait for the day that I have thousands of factors going into each fight, so I can bring an elite level of fight predictions. So that's the goal, and that's how the calculator works. And it's been getting better, man. It's been getting a lot better. So I'm really, really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. Well, it's definitely cool to like have that as like a reference point always. Like for like when I'm making picks, I'm like, okay, the calculator probably knows best, but I just need to see it for reference. So once again, like I'm super excited that it's even a thing. That's why I wanted to have a little segment all about it. So that was a little intro for it. The following weeks, y'all will see more detailed stuff coming out about the calculator. We just needed a little more time this week, and it didn't quite happen. The actual like outcomes and everything, but typically got a full slate for us, right, Mike?
For sure. And that's the thing. I'm getting my schedules down a lot more. And again, with all this coding stuff, a lot of the calculations are going to be automatic. So all I have to do is just type in the fighters for each card. And hold on for me. Bam, calculated. I'll even get like an automated voice that goes calculating, and then there you go. So it's going to be exciting, man. I got so much in store for this calculator. I'll have it to the point where my girlfriend's over and she'll be talking to me about how all the stuff at work is going, all this and all that, and I'll go, but calculator. Like I'll just bring it up to whoever ends up talking to me because it's all I think about, man, and I'm super excited because I'm dedicated to make this thing one of the top fight predictors in the world, and I think it's something I can do because I got the will and I got the brain. And so soon we'll have the coding skills to do it as well. So there we go.
Well, we got this guy studying to get his fucking doctorate or something over here with the coding and stuff. So I'm gonna swing it over to the professor. So we'll say you're the grad student, and over here we got the professor, Zach Harkness, aka Mal Pacino, aka Gamebred Spy. And before we wrap this show up, MMA Math Thematics on MMA Island, I'm that kid raising his hand at the end of class, be like, hey, you forgot to assign us homework. So teach. Coach, what'll it be? What are some fights to look forward to on this week's rendition of Tape Deck?
So I want to start.
And tell us exactly what our intentions are for Tape Deck, too.
Okay, so for Tape Deck, my goal is to give you one fight to watch from each matchup that I think, in my opinion, gives you the best idea of how the fight is going to go that is booked for this upcoming card. So, like, it's basically just patterns and habits of certain fighters, how they fight people similar to their scheduled matchup. So I want to start with the co-main event, Ovince St. Preux versus Jamal Hill. And I have a fight to assign for for OSP, and it's going to be his fight against Dominic Reyes. And it's because Reyes and Hill are kind of stylistically very, very similar because they both have this thing, which is very accurate striking volume. When I was talking to Jamal Hill, he has this thing, touch him up university. That's what he says. He brings all of his opponents to touch him up university because he's never not hitting his opponent. His volume and output is insane, and he keeps that accuracy. And we've seen in all of OSP's fight that once accurate striking volume is brought to him, he struggles. And it was no more apparent than his fight against Dominic Reyes. Reyes hits, I think 60% striking accuracy while landing 97 strikes. And OSP kind of shuts down when he gets hit with a lot of striking volume. So I think once you watch that fight, you'll see something very, very similar of how this fight is going to go. And for the next one I want to assign, I want to go down to the prelims talking about Gabriel Benitez and Justin James. This is one of the closest fights and one of the hardest ones. And because we don't really have a very good read on Justin James yet, but I think that we do. And it's his last fight against Gavin Tucker because that shows how I think every single Justin James fight goes. He starts out really, really fast. He brings a lot of volume and a lot of power. But when he's faced with a very technical opponent who will mix it up, not just go to the head, but goes to the body and especially the legs, which Gabriel Benitez does, he starts to gas. And once he slows down, Justin James is not dangerous at all. You can basically do whatever to him. Once he got tired, Gavin Tucker had his way with Justin James, did whatever he wanted to in that fight. And when he gasses hard. And I think that fight is very, very apparent to watch. Because if he slows down, if he's not able to get Gabriel Benitez out in the first round, and Benitez is a tough guy. He's really, really tough. Like, he fought for almost a whole round with a hole in his shin. You could put a quarter in there from the Omar Morales fight.
It didn't happen.
And he's really powerful as well. You know, the hardest kicker at AKA, according to Javier Mendez, and someone who was dropped and almost knocked out a hype train in Mr. Sadiq Youssef. I think that the Gavin Tucker fight is one to definitely watch. And I want to go back to the main event for the last one, Marvin Vittori versus Jack Hermansson. And I want to direct you to Marvin Vittori versus Antonio Carlos Jr. Shoeface.
I was thinking earlier in the week, what's his fight going to be? So I went and watched that fight, and I knew that was going to be your pick if you had one for Vittori.
Because we know that these two guys are very even everywhere it goes. I think that Hermansson might have the slight edge on the feet because Vittori might have the volume edge, but he does not have the technique edge. I think Hermansson is much more technical on the feet. And because we know Vittori has that great ground game, right? He's really, really good on the ground, but we know that Hermansson is too. And so is Antonio Carlos Jr. Now, to be fair, Vittori's striking has improved a lot since the Antonio Carlos Jr. fight, but it was around the same level at the time. And it's around the same level with Jack Hermansson right now. And it shows where Vittori doesn't have a distinct advantage over his opponent. He starts to question what he's doing. He starts to lose and let the other person kind of take control. And that's what happened against Antonio Carlos Jr. I think that that's what's going to happen. I think Jack Hermansson is going to win. I think that the ground game is going to be a little bit too much. I think they're going to be a little bit even. So I'm going Jack Hermansson.
Interesting. Those are some great picks. And audience, if you're still with us, if you go check out our fight picks, me and Mike this week, we did Jack Hermansson, Marvin Vittori for the main event. If you go and listen to that, you will hear me give almost an exact opposite analysis on that idea of who is better at finding their way out of situations or something like that in the Hermansson Vittori matchup. I think we see these guys differently. I'm huge fans of both guys, but I'm not. Go check that out for a different lens. I'm the only one who picked him. So
you picked Vittori?
Oh yeah.
I'm a fan of neither, and it really hurts to give compliments
I'm a
to Jack
huge
Hermansson.
fan of both.
Oh, I love both too. Yeah, 100%.
I don't.
But
I can't.
There are very few fighters that I don't like.
What? Vittori's cool.
I got hacked.
I like Vittori, but it really hurts to pick Jack Hermansson. Y'all know why it hurts to pick Jack Hermansson. You know why.
Dramatic, bro.
I'm not over it, okay? It was the day before my birthday.
Vera probably his next fight.
What? Why? Against
Aldo?
Aldo?
You didn't know we got a huge Jacare fan in Zach over here.
Yes, so I'm kind of glad that we get to see Kevin Holland against Jacare instead. I think that's a more winnable fight for him.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to say thank you to you two boys. Thank you. This podcast wouldn't be possible without MMA Island, the platform that we all operate on. This is also brought to you by, never going to sponsor us, but Tapology. It's brought to you by Fight Picks, brought to you by all the public MMA resources that you can think of. I'm not a genius. These two are, but anything you hear me say that sounds anything like numbers or facts, I got it from one of the many resources available online. So make sure to go check out Tapology, SureDog. A lot of really cool and informative MMA websites all over. As far as MMA applications go, none other is my favorite than Fight Picks. Fight Picks is an app that allows you to, make weekly picks in competition against your friends for belts, keeps tracks of your records, all sorts of shit. You want to do it. Pick fights with your friends, but not real fights. Fake fights online with fighters. Don't fight your friends. besides that, what else are brought to you by? We're gonna have a few more, or we're looking for sponsors soon. But besides that, the only thing I got to say is Slick Diaz fighter watch for this week probably is going to be Jamal Hill.
Yes, go check out my interview with him. It's pretty good.
Absolutely. I'll also go check out my interview with Nate the Train Landwear.
Check out my interview with Marvin Vittori.
Exactly.
We're all plugged in.
Interviews for this card. Other Slick Diaz fighter watch maybes are Roman Dolidze and Movsar Evloev, but huge fan of Nate Landwear. Love what he does.
Personal hitman.
Yeah. To close it out with a quote by Nate Landwehr, I hope that this weekend brings us nothing but blood, sweat, and some good ass fights. Thank you for watching MMA Attic on MMA Island. I've been Slick Diaz. This is Michael Frye, Zach Harkness, your boys from MMA Island. First inaugural episode of MMA Math Thematics. We're out of here. Thank you, boys. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.